Hey all y'all. Um, Coming close to spring, I think. It's been nice here in central Missouri. So I'm 2 hours late. I'm sorry. Lots of stuff going on. So we're going to continue to talk about weight gain, obesity, and hormones, which is kind of my thing. Hormones. So we've been talking about insulin. We've been talking about the fact that the traditional approach to weight loss of eating less and moving more doesn't work. I've hopefully proven that to you. And I'm going to talk to you about some genetic studies and some other stuff about hormones and weight gain, specifically obesity. Okay, so this genetic study, they're saying it's new, but it's 2018. So, and this is from, let's see, the United Kingdom. So a new genetic study, 3 years old, shows that a higher insulin level is a key causal factor in weight gain, which is what I've been trying to prove to you and teaching you for the past week and a half. So the way the study was run kind of provides some useful food for thought about why some people gain weight while others do not, and it adds to the discussion about weight gain across the world, really. So there's two theories, and we've talked about this. One is that people gain weight and get obese because they have high caloric intake and too few calories being burned off that leads to weight gain. And we've talked about the second law of thermodynamics showing that that's not true, and plenty of studies have showed that that doesn't work. The other theory is that too much carbohydrate, which promotes high levels of insulin or the fat storage hormone, causes weight gain, and that's where we're at. Okay, so the calories in and calories out theory, more movement theory, is the theory most talked about by medical professionals, what I was taught in medical school, and the media. But there's plenty of people that eat huge amounts of calories that remain thin, and there's people that eat very few calories that remain heavy. Okay, so the carbohydrate insulin model is what we're talking about. So this is it's written from the United Kingdom, but the study was done at Boston's Children's Hospital. And they used a Mendelian randomization to explore how different genetic traits influenced obesity. Okay, so there are people that genetically make more insulin, so they have higher insulin secretions. And this study showed that being genetically predisposed to having a greater body mass index did not lead to greater insulin secretion. Okay. But they ran the analysis from two different directions. The researchers were able to show that higher insulin leads to higher body mass index. Okay, so this is based on genetic studies. Okay, so let's delve more into insulin and obesity. So according to the hormone obesity theory, we are postulating that higher insulin levels cause obesity. So we can give insulin or insulin-stimulating drugs like sulfonylureas and cause weight gain, despite all the attempts that people do on those drugs to lower caloric intake. So if that is true, then the opposite should also be true. So if we reduce insulin to low levels, we should expect significant weight loss despite all attempts to increase calories. And in fact, that is true. So type 1 diabetes, my grandfather had it, is an autoimmune disease of the pancreas. The insulin-producing cells of the body are destroyed, so insulin levels fall to extremely low levels. And he was diagnosed, this is back in the 1940s, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes because he kept losing weight no matter what he did. He also had sticky, sugary urine, so he was spilling blood sugar in his urine. And insulin, type 1 diabetes can be fatal if you don't give those people insulin. So, in essence, insulin is the signal to the body to gain weight. If we give someone insulin, they will gain weight. Every doctor knows that. If we take insulin away, people lose weight. So it's one of the major controllers of body set weight. So human physiology, homeostasis. If insulin goes up, our body requires us to gain weight. Okay? So we become hungry and we are compelled to eat, and our body weight increases. If that doesn't work with an increase in insulin, then our total energy expenditure, or our calories out, will adjust so that we gain weight in response to whatever calories that we take in by mouth. So eating more and moving less is the result of obesity, not the cause of obesity. We do not get fat because we overeat. We overeat because we get fat. So the question is, why do we get fat? Well, we get fat because our insulin levels are too high. So in a majority of cases, insulin is the major player in obesity, but it's not the only one. So there's cortisol. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone. So if excess cortisol seems to cause obesity, if we think that, if we hypothesize that, then we should be able to give somebody cortisol and observe weight gain. Well, you can observe cases where cortisol is overproduced in the body. That's called Cushing's syndrome. And the hallmark of Cushing's syndrome is weight gain. So there's a synthetic form of cortisol called prednisone, and anybody that is taking prednisone as a routine knows that they're going to gain weight. So if you give somebody prednisone, they develop what's called Cushingoid syndrome. So they look like they have Cushing's disease, even though they don't. But most notice that they gain weight. And there's a particular distribution of this weight gain, which is called truncal obesity, so midsection weight gain. So the arms and the legs don't gain weight. The midsection of people's bodies gain weight. Okay? So if cortisol levels were to drop, what if they became extremely low? So if you had no stress in your life at all, well, that's called Addison's disease. So if people can't make cortisol, John F. Kennedy was one that didn't. That's Addison's disease. And the hallmark of that disease is weight loss. So the hormones are the key to obesity. They are causal relationships. One thing causes the other. Okay? So if we increase our insulin levels, we gain weight. If we decrease our insulin levels by not eating, and it takes about 12 hours for a drop in insulin, then we lose weight. Okay? So our body weight is regulated by hormones, just like everything else in our body is regulated by hormones. Okay? So our body weight's not left up to this daily caloric intake and output. It's precisely regulated by hormones, mainly by insulin, also cortisol. Okay? So we don't control our body weight any more than we control our heart rates or our respiratory rate. Your brainstem does your heart rate and your respiratory rate. Your hormones determine your body weight. It goes on automatically under the influence of hormones. You don't have to think about it. So hormones tell us that we're hungry. Hormones tell us that we're full or sated. They tell us when to increase energy expenditure. They tell us when to shut down energy expenditure. So obesity and weight gain is a hormonal dysregulation of fat accumulation. So when the hormones are out of balance, we get diseases, heart disease, menopausal syndrome, andropausal syndrome, or obesity. And so if we can understand that obesity and weight gain is a hormone imbalance, then how do you treat obesity? So that's the next question. How do you treat it? So if we believe that eating too much is what causes obesity, then the treatment would be to reduce calories. But that's been a complete and utter failure. It's been proven time and time again. And so if we understand that obesity is caused by too much insulin production, then we need to lower insulin. So one of the things we do in health coaching for labs is a fasting insulin level. We want to see you under 20. So the reason for obesity has not changed really for 140 years since William Banting in the mid 1800s. Okay, so we believed for years that too much sugar and too much starch caused obesity. The same thing your mother and your grandmother have been telling you. Okay, so you treated obesity by reducing starches and sugar, and that worked. Okay, from the 1950s, 60s to about the 2000s, we believe that calories caused obesity, which led to calorie restricted diets, all of which fail. And obesity rates from 1977 exploded. Type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, all went out of whack. Okay? So with the greater understanding of hormones as the reason for obesity and weight gain, we have come full circle and have recognized again that refined carbohydrates are the cause of obesity and the obesity epidemic, insulin resistance epidemic, type 2 diabetes epidemic. Okay? So the key is to get your insulin levels back in balance, to a lesser degree, getting your cortisol levels back in balance. The key is not balancing calories, it's to balance hormones. So coming up from this, we'll be talking about exercise. So we've talked about caloric restriction, which doesn't work. So quit counting calories. And we'll talk about insulin levels, cortisol, hormones, and hormone balance, like we always should have been. Okay, I'll talk to you Wednesday. This is Monday. I'm later than I usually am. So have a great night. Talk to you later. Bye.